What would you do if you were trapped in the car with a psychopath? The woman known only as Angelyne is a true mystery to many, her history only having been revealed in subtle clues from the elusive woman herself. Predating the Kardashians, this platinum blonde, baby voice, surgically enhanced Barbie come to life is famously known for being, well, famous. Her big claim to stardom originally came from her self-promoting busty billboards, as well as her signature pink Corvette that could be found all over Hollywood, as well as the silver screen. Not to look down on her talents as a vocalist and her former boyfriend's band, as well as her acting career that led to her small roles in great movies such as Earth Girls Are Easy. In 2003, she tried running as a candidate in hopes to replace the soon-to-be-recalled Democratic Governor Gray Davis, with a very unique catchphrase, "We've had gray, we've had brown, now it's time for some blonde and pink." Unfortunately, she would lose the throne to Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. As time progressed, her spotlight would finally begin to dim ever so slightly. The iconic billboards and pink Stingray Corvette can still be spotted around town. To this day, Angelyne remains a classic Hollywood staple. But what is her life like now? What has she even been doing? What is she really like? Well, this week's guest, Phil Warren, can answer all these questions from his own perspective, as he has had the unique experience of winning a date with Angelyne. Phil, how are you doing today?
I am phenomenal. And how are you?
I am fantastic, as always. So, Phil here, our guest, he is a dabbler in the blogging world, which is kind of how I came to find him, and he's an adventurer of sorts, which I seem to collect a lot of those in my life.
Indeed. Yeah, I try and collect bizarre experiences. I like any eccentricities that life can offer me. So when I had the opportunity to meet up with someone who is a bastion of kitsch, could I call her that?
That
Such
fits
as,
fantastic.
yeah, I figured a day spent with Angelyne would be one of my greatest stories. And I love telling stories.
Little did you know it would become one of your more infamous stories.
Oh, it was awful. It was one of the worst days I've ever had.
So let's start at the beginning. How did this come to pass? How did you land into the pink Corvette?
Well, there was actually an art show in Los Angeles.
Ah, that's right. She dabbled in painting herself, didn't she?
Yes, they are not good. They're very, very overpriced, and I should have taken note at this art show. It was an aggressively capitalistic art show.
Really?
There was a cover to get into the art show, which is somewhat odd for an art opening. I
would
believe
say so.
Yeah, it was somewhat steep. I want to say it was like a $20 cover.
For just
yeah.
a simple art show? How big was the gallery?
It was, admittedly, you haven't seen the size of my living room, but you can probably guess. It was about the size of my living room, maybe two of my living rooms. So it was not a $20 experience.
Did she at least have a style? Did she have some level of organization of something she was leaning towards? Or was it just, look, I have a brush, mommy?
It was a very kind of flat pop art style. They were all of herself.
Of course.
Which sort of echoes everything that Angelyne does. It's always about herself. Just hyper busty, nude blonde women with big eyes. Not particularly great, but yeah, actually, I shouldn't bag on it because it's somewhat impressive that she was making art. Like, she was doing a thing, and that's cool. But everything there was on sale. She had a merch stand set up where she was selling T-shirts for between $40 and $60. And the cheapest thing you could buy there was like a $20 button, I want to say.
Oh my God.
But there was a box in the corner where you could drop in a business card. And on the box it was written, "Win a ride with Angelyne." And it seemed fairly straightforward that a select few would be drawn at random and gifted a free ostensible date with this pseudo celebrity where she drove you all over Hollywood in her legendary pink Corvette.
Now, when you saw this, were you kind of more worried that this was a ploy to get young people in so she could feed off their youth? Or did you think this was actually something legit?
I thought this was actually legit because in my mind she was so kitschy and wacky, and there was a good chance that this was just part of the mystique of Angelyne, that she was letting a select few in on this joyous secret of how just wacky life in Hollywood could be. And it turned out to be not that at all.
Okay, so time passes, you get a contact of some sort, I'm guessing. Now, how did they reach out to you and tell you you won?
So I got a phone call, and it was from this man named Scott. And I wasn't entirely surprised because, well, for a few reasons. One, the company I work for is somewhat of note in Hollywood. So I had an idea that she might have been combing through those cards and choosing select companies. I don't think I was correct now. I think just everyone won. But I'd also noticed all of my friends on Facebook who had entered this contest, who also worked for in the industry, they'd won as well. So I wasn't too shocked when this man named Scott called me up and congratulated me and set something up for that Sunday. So was it Sunday? Yeah, I believe it was Sunday. So I could go out and have a wonderful time on the town with Angelyne. And he promised me, he said, I promise it will be a good time. That was a
Did
lot.
he say that in like an ominous tone? Did he have fear in his voice?
He didn't punctuate it by laughing maniacally, so he sounded earnest.
Wow, he must be good at his job. I wonder how much she pays him.
I heard from a friend producer who tried to work with her, that her assistants actually tend to cycle through every few weeks. So
Really?
I sincerely doubt Scott is still working for or with her. But yeah, apparently she doesn't treat anyone very well, so
Hmm.
they tend not to stick around. But yeah, I was very
I
curious.
assumed a famously famous Hollywood debutante would be all of culture and nobility and pride.
Oh, I would have assumed as well, and that was not the case.
All
She
right,
was
so then thus begins the day of note. So how does this whole day start out? How do you prepare yourself for your big date? Do you dress up, put some cologne on?
Well, I tried to dress kind of ostentatiously. I figured that would put us on a common ground right away.
So
So,
you did the whale tail, pig thong, blonde wig, and pink
yeah, yeah.
lipstick. Okay.
Just, I actually wore some bright red alligator skin shoes, and I wore a button down and some nice jeans, and figured that was
You dressed
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood nice. So I was brunching with friends in preparation for this, and I'll admit, fairly hungover from the previous night, and not a little hungover. I was absinthe hungover, so it was already not an auspicious way to start the event. Um,
Fellow absinthe dabbler as well. I'm using dabble a lot today, people. Get used to it. Um, have you heard of Slipstream Absinthe?
I have not. Is it something I should check out?
It is something you should check out. We'll talk about that after the story.
Oh, okay. So I walked out of brunch right about when I was supposed to meet her, and she pulled up in her pink Corvette, and it seemed like things should have been easy from that point because the pieces were in play. She was there, the car was there. It seemed like all that should need to happen was I get in the car, or maybe she park and she gets out of the car. I don't know. But what did happen is that she just stopped in the middle of the road. And this is not just any road. She stops in the middle of Sunset Boulevard, which upset the motorists on Sunset Boulevard quite a bit.
I can
And
only imagine.
there was this moment of cognitive dissonance where I wasn't sure, was I doing something wrong? Was there what was happening that was causing this event to proceed so abnormally? She rolled down her window maybe an inch and shouted something at me, but I couldn't quite hear her over the traffic, so I had to step into the road and up to her car. I tried to get in, the doors were locked, and she indicated that I was to find her a parking spot, which I thought I misheard her, and then she circled around the block again, just leaving me there for a few minutes while I called Scott and tried to figure out what just happened. And she came back around and this time pulled up against a fire hydrant. And sure enough, she again asked me to find her a parking spot, which I didn't really even know how to proceed in doing that.
It's Los Angeles. You just kind of pray.
Yeah. So right out of the gate, things were not ideal. Eventually, I just told her and she did circle around and find a spot in front of what allegedly is her favorite coffee shop, or so her assistant had told me, so I don't know why parking was an issue. And I was still with friends, but once she was parked and got out, then the shit show really started. It was a non-stop hard sell for me to give her money. She popped open her trunk.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah.
Straight to business.
Yeah, popped open her trunk, and it was brimming with assorted Angelyne merchandise. A lot of it was in very threadbare supermarket bags, just like the burlap sacks you might purchase at Trader Joe's.
Okay.
So a lot of things in fairly threadbare bags that sort of painted this picture of her maybe not being
well off.
Yeah, well off. Maybe Angelyne had fallen on hard times, but she pitched to me and my two friends for 10 to 20 minutes on how we should give her money, because it was just the donations of fans like us that would allow her to continue living her lifestyle.
And of course, you are one of her most diehard fans at this point.
Oh, yeah, incredible fan.
Now, this was with the classic pink Corvette, correct?
This was. And it was very weird because it's a very expensive Corvette. I don't know the most about cars, but late model Corvettes, you're looking at a $80,000, $90,000 vehicle.
Lately they've been showing a lot of images with her with not her old classic late 1980s, early 1990s Corvette. She's got a new, modern, updated late 2010s. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah, if you read up on her, she claims that she has a new Corvette, or that she updates her fleet every year. She also claims she has two.
A fleet of two.
Yeah, a fleet of two. But I'm not inclined to believe that that's true. A lot of what she said seemed to be steeped in artifice. But maybe. I don't know. But a very expensive vehicle nonetheless. And she made me pay for her parking. Granted, only a few dollars. I think I put $2, $3 in the meter, which is incidental, but very bizarre.
Well, depending on where you are, that could be an hour, maybe two.
Yeah, I think I paid for, I want to say 2 hours. Could be wrong. But
if you try to find more modern pictures of her nowadays, all you see is essentially her showing off every other part of her body other than her face. Right. Were you able to look her straight in the eye and see her face?
It is very uncomfortable. Once we sat down for coffee, I spent 51 god-awful minutes gazing into her eyes. It's actually uncomfortable. I've not met someone like this. She had a lot of plastic surgery done in a time where arguably the standards weren't quite up to snuff.
The science was new.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see what actually happens after 30 years of being intensely touched up. She's not aged gracefully, and I feel guilty talking about her physical appearance, because there's so much awful stuff to say about her personality.
Well then let's move on to that. How does someone with her personality enter a coffee shop? I'm curious about this one.
Well, my favorite thing, and by favorite I mean most hated thing about this woman, was she absolutely refused at any point in time to open a door for herself. Um, Her entire persona is based on this self-promoted ideal of her being a Hollywood ingenue, where she's this dainty, naive maiden, and swarthy gentlemen everywhere bend over backwards to take care of her. It's actually an incredibly sexist attitude. But what that meant was, as we go up the narrow side walkway to the coffee shop, and there's a train, she's leading, and there's three of us, suddenly she just
You
stops.
and your friends.
Yeah. And she just stops in front of the door, and we all kind of run into each other. Again, very odd. It felt like we were playing a video game and an NPC had just frozen up. And my parents raised me to hold the door for women, so I reached around her and awkwardly opened it. And sure enough, that's what she was waiting for. And she entered, immediately shouted at the barista that she'd have her usual, and then just sat down. She didn't wait at the counter. She didn't go through any of the protocol a human might normally go through to procure coffee. Instead, she just shouted, "I'll have my usual," and then had a seat.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I figured, like, oh, this woman's so well known and so well liked and magnanimous that despite my less than stellar interaction with her, that these people probably saw enough of her that they were going to comp her a coffee and they loved having her in.
And was that
We've
in
been
any
sitting
way the
down.
case?
That was not the case. She did ask me to get up and pay for her coffee that she'd already ordered by shouting at them. And with these microtransactions, again, it was odd, but it was not unthinkable. I mean, a coffee is what, $3, $4?
About that.
So yeah, it wasn't the end of the world to get up and buy her a coffee. What kind of surprised me was the disdain that the barista clearly felt for this woman. And it was clear that she was not treating him well. But I asked once I got up there, I was like, well, while I'm buying the young lady a coffee, can I get one of those Angelyne specials for myself? And he kind of chuckled and he was like, sure. And I asked him what was in it anyways. And he was just like, it's just vanilla powder and coffee.
Oh my God.
It was dripping with so much vitriol. I was really expecting him to say, also I spit in it a lot.
I'm surprised you didn't just piss in it. A lot.
But it was the one of the sugariest drinks I've ever had. I did make it through mine. But the whole time we were sitting with her, she was just flip-flopping between talking about how great she was and really pushing us to give her money. There was never more than about 3 minutes spent on a topic without doubling back to why we should give her money for something. And it was...
Well, she graced you with her presence. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be making it rain as she walks.
She'd continuously fidget, and we were pretty much alone in this coffee shop, but she'd look around and comment that she didn't want people staring at her, which was weird.
That's kind of the opposite of what a mentality of hers typically goes for.
Yeah, but there was very much this sort of paranoia thing of I'm in the limelight and everyone's looking at me, and that just wasn't the case. But yeah, it was intense. She was also very demeaning. It felt very much like almost a pickup artist style of rhetoric, where she spoke in clusters. She'd say one amazing thing about herself, and then the next two things she said were all little stabs, little negative statements that were backhanded insults, or maybe just on the nose insulting. There was a point, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but there was one point where I was in the car with her where just out of nowhere she shouted, "Why are you so poor?" Just
Spoiler warning, you made it to the car.
yeah.
Did you make it to first base at any point in this entire date?
Oh God, that's so gross.
Okay, so how does the coffee shop wind up coming to a close? How do you go from coffee shop hell to pink Corvette hell?
Oh God. Well, it's important to note that any environment you're with or you're in with this woman, you are desperately trying to get out of. So no matter what the situation, there's this optimistic voice in the back of your head that says, "Hey, if you get out of here, it'll be better." Um, so she actually, for some odd reason, was timing us, so I knew how long we'd spent in the coffee shop. It was 51 minutes, and towards the end, I really started pushing, like, "Hey, can we
Why
get
was
on?"
she the one timing us?
I don't know.
This
Well,
is not. This seems like the kind of thing you'd be timing. Like, oh my god, am I almost done?
yeah, yeah. I I do have the impression that, well, she at one point had pulled a list out of her pocket, um, with a bunch of scrawled names on it. It was clear that she had quite the schedule for the day. So I think she gives quite a few rides in a day.
I bet she does.
And I do think that that is her only income. So, and life in LA is not cheap.
No,
So,
it is not. Especially when you live out of a Corvette. It sounds like.
yeah. Uh, so maybe that's why she was timing it. But let's see. What else? How did that end? It's been a few weeks at this point. Well, hell, I guess it's been a few months at this point. Um, but yeah, once I convinced her to leave, again there was a train of people. It was me and my two friends following her out of the coffee shop, and again we tried to leave by that side door. And this time, again, she stops dead short of the door, waiting for someone to reach over and open it. But it's such an awkward, cramped exit that it's really, really difficult to actually smoothly open that door for her. It was it was odd.
Well, at least you have a golden ticket on how to ditch her.
Yeah.
Just
So
don't open the door for her, and you're scot free.
she had suggested, when I pushed her to leave the coffee shop, she asked where I wanted to go on the ride, and I actually didn't know how to answer that. I don't know where you should go with Angelyne. I don't know what your options are.
Let's go to shooting
So,
range so I can put one up. No, that's too
oh,
that's evil. I'm not gonna say that.
too far, too far. Um, so
I do
she
not wish ill will upon this woman. I just don't ever want to meet her.
she suggested that she take me to the world famous Beechwood Market. Um, and I really enjoy exploring biz, bizarre and esoteric things. So I was excited that she'd suggested this thing that I'd never heard of. What is this Beechwood Market? Why is it amazing? So I hop in the car and we start our merry little jaunt up to this allegedly famous market. And to skip ahead, again, not famous, just a grocery store.
Beechwood Market Grocery in Hollywood Hills.
Yes, indeed.
Pictures of sandwiches.
There are sandwiches there.
Um, let's see. Let's go ahead and go with a random Yelp review. I may be a gringa, but that doesn't keep me away from Northgate Gonzales Market whenever I make a big batch of freeze burritos or need fresh ingredients. That sounds like world-class famous market to me. That is where I go for fame and just tourist trap. I'm surprised this place it was flooded with Asians and cameras. I'm assuming yes.
Man, the weird thing was when we walked in, the looks that the cashiers gave us sort of suggested that she's brought other people here before. I was at no point in any of this
Oh, don't
did
look
I.
by the dumpster. You'll just see like a batch of prophylactics. Just
Oh
that.
God. But yeah, she sort of walked me through the market to show me this famous poster in the corner, which was, I guess they'd shot the Invasion of the Body Snatchers in front of it. Well, yeah, that's kind of cool. So she showed me the poster for that. That was in the
Was
pro.
she in Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
She might have been. If By the way, if you get a chance to check out her body of work, so to speak, kind of hilarious. It's also kind of amazing because she amassed quite a bit of fame without being able to leverage that into any real role.
With any real talent.
Yeah, it's
Let's see here. Her acting career consists of starting in 1974, Phantom of the Paradise. She was
she
auditioning singer uncredited.
yeah, she doesn't even have a speaking line. It's actually a really
No.
cool, I believe it's a Brian De Palma film. Really kitschy, a lot of fun, but she's in the background in a line. And
Let's
then
see. In Earth Girls Are Easy, she played the gas girl. Hard Case
which is
and Fish, she was the foxy dancer. Yeah, no, she actually was not in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
she was not. I actually think that was shot in the
She was on The
50s.
Simpsons. That's something.
What?
She was on The
Really?
Simpsons.
No way. That's amazing.
There we go. Famous is famous.
Huh. Well, I take back everything bad that I've ever said about
No, you do not.
her. That's. I just Googled that. I can't. I can't find any images of that. That's unfortunate. Ugh. By the way, if you're looking to see recent pictures of her, just type Angelyne 2015.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Be
She
flooded
was
with.
not in The Simpsons. Her billboard
Ah,
was in The Simpsons.
damn it!
It also made it into Futurama.
That she didn't play that character, did she? It's just called Angelyne. I think that's the case. Anyway, but
Anyway, back to the grocery store of fame.
I digress. Yeah, so we're in the produce section, and she starts just running her hands along produce, and then turns to me, and she always spoke with this infantilized voice, which is maddening coming from a woman who appears to be in her mid to late 70s. She turned to me and, in an infantilized voice, goes, "I'm hungry. Can you buy me food?"
Good God, she looks like something out of Dr. Seuss.
It was very bizarre. Then she put up her hands and kind of limp-wristedly indicated that she had like paws and sort of did a kitten pawing motion, as though she were a kitten begging for food.
I'm very happy for her.
It was odd. I really didn't know how to react. But the weird thing is, when you're alone with this woman for any real period of time, she does have a way of manipulating your perception of reality. So this seems a little more normal, and you feel bad actually calling her out and saying, "Hey, it's not entirely usual for a stranger to buy a woman's groceries for her."
So she drugged you.
So clearly I was on morphine. I did refuse to buy her groceries, but again, it was a very hard sell. She was really pushing it and really expected me to buy her groceries. And given at this point it was 3 in the afternoon, so
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't for a meal right then. I think she really wanted her week's supply of food to have been purchased at that
Please
point.
feed me. I'm desperate.
And I get with the cost of her car and her relative fame, it was uncomfortable. Um, and again, it would alternate between uncomfortable and downright mean. She was very belittling. At no point did she ever do anything that I would describe as friendly. Um, I'd urged her to get back in the car. When I realized it was just a grocery store, I told her I wasn't going to buy anything. I was very polite, but I asked her if we could continue the ride. And once we got back in the car, this just barrage of insults picks up, where she starts asking what my parents had done to raise such a cheap son. What did my parents do anyway?
How
Like, were
dare
they?
they give you any self-dignity?
Yeah, it the only break in this nonstop stream of belittling behavior was when we passed by a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, where things
Now
got
you got me excited.
oh yeah, got uncomfortably racist. because I was desperately looking to talk about anything that wasn't money or her or why my parents had raised such a cheap son. So when we drove by, I kind of perked up and expressed that I would really like to eat there. That's one of those LA hot spots that I've yet to make it to. I have eaten there in Long Beach, but I haven't eaten at the Hollywood location.
Okay.
And she tensed up as soon as I said that and sort of replied that I don't think I eat there. And right away, yeah,
Because you're crazy?
why not? And she responded just like, it doesn't look clean. I mean, you wouldn't eat there, would you?
Yes, I would eat there every
Yeah.
day for the rest of my life until I died from being lovingly fat.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, yeah, I would eat there. I just said I'd like to eat there. And then she responded, she was like, oh, well, Roscoe, is he black?
Oh my god.
And of course, I don't know if there's a Roscoe. I think it's actually highly unlikely that the chain is legitimately named after the man who owns it. I don't know. Maybe. But I was just like, I think so? Because I really wanted to see what was going to happen. And she just sort of gave this quiet, oh. And then we sat in silence.
I like how the audio actually kind of gave out right when you said "oh." It was fantastic. It's "oh" like the high pitched robot.
Right. And I just sort of really to get her goat. And I was like, well, I think so. And she just sort of, she looked defeated and just goes, oh. And then we just sat in silence for a good 20 seconds. It was kind of refreshing, actually. But
Oh, finally, she's not talking.
But she kind of, there was a very strong, like, racist grandma vibe for a little bit there. Um, it was interesting. And I guess, I don't know. It was,
Special?
yeah, it was special. I guess at no point was there anything redeeming that ever came out of this woman's mouth, so I don't know why it would surprise me that she was racist.
Can't imagine there ever having been.
So
So where did you move on from Roscoe's? Or I'm sorry, you didn't even go to Roscoe's. When
no.
she very politely declined Roscoe's chicken and waffles, where did you wind up going to next?
Well, at that point, she spurted. She's like, "Well, you want a photo with me, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I don't know why I responded positively. It just seemed like there should be something I should take out of this experience that was tangible, that fun. I don't know, but I didn't want to remember this experience. I wanted it expunged from my brain. But whatever. She explained that she charged $10 for a photo, and I told her I
Of course.
really didn't. Yeah, I didn't want a $10 photo. But then she thought for a moment, and then she perked up, and she's like, "Well, I know you don't want to pay for a photo, but I'll tell you what, I never pump my own gas. I only have gentlemen pump my gas. A lady should never pump her own. If you'd be a dear and pump my gas, I'll let that pay for your photo." And for some reason, I was like,
You about to get stiffed for gas.
for some reason, I acquiesced. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, that sounds like a deal. So I bought her $10 of gas at a gas station she drove up to. And of course, she asked for the highest grade gas, which actually, I guess if you're driving a late model Corvette is probably what it takes. But I know that she expected me to give her a full tank of gas. I did not do that. I gave her $10. And then later got a photo with her for it, which if the photos in the article I wrote. Oh yeah, which by the way, I don't know if we commented on that I actually ended up writing a 5,000 some word article about this experience.
Yes, I was gonna ask you about that towards the end of the interview about how the story doesn't end.
It'll just never end. Wake up every night clutching my sheets in a cold sweat.
So So you just went ahead and pumped her, what, $10 in gas?
But yeah, so this $10 in gas and got back in the car, and then things got weird.
They got
Weirder.
weird?
They got weird because at this point she was clearly unhappy with the fact that I'd only bought her $10 worth of gas. And let's not lose objectivity here. At this point in this date, this ride that I won, I was probably about 30 some dollars in the hole. Actually, that's not accurate. Probably 35 around there because I had bought a $20 button from her. Um, so
As well as two coffees.
yeah,
Two half cup coffees and a half a cup of vanilla powder.
yeah, and then it was frustrating, but she was clearly getting very upset that this had not landed her any real lucrative opportunities. I don't know how much money she's accustomed to getting from these things.
God, their panhandlers are doing it all wrong. You just have to have tits and a Corvette.
But she tried to barter with me and was like, "Well, I know this restaurant up the road. It's got real cheap food."
Feed me again.
I was like, "Nope, no, I'm good. I'm not hungry. I don't want to buy you anything. I just buy you gas. Let's take a photo now." So she pulled up in front of a Denny's, explained that she had to use the bathroom anyway, and I really had a
Of course,
sense.
at Denny's.
Yeah, things were getting pretty bad at that point. She was becoming more and more vicious with every passing second. So I knew that it was about time to cut and run. So I had a passing stranger take my photo with her, which is in the article, and you can tell that I'm not having a good time. Um, and then we walked up to the Denny's. She made me hold the door for her. No, that's okay. Uh, and then she waited for me to come inside, which I was just not going to do because I knew how that was going to unfold. So I waited out on the front steps and desperately texted my friends, seeing if anyone was in the area who wanted to extricate me from the situation.
SOS, need help. Crazy woman wants to eat my soul.
And eventually, when she came back out of Denny's, I was really curious because I was standing maybe 10 feet from the entrance, and I was curious what would happen if I didn't hold the door for her, which is kind of mean, but eh. So I pretended not to notice that she came, and she starts pawing at the glass door, and I hear through the glass a muffled, "Help me!
She's trapped. You got her. Finally.
Help me!" So some passerby actually just opened the door for her, so it was only a few seconds of hilarity. Um, but at that point, she started bartering with me, saying, "Well, I tell you what, I'll drive you back to where I picked you up from if you just buy me. I know this Chinese place down the street. They have
Oh
a
my
dollar
god.
fifty rolls.
This,
I'll
you,
drive
you,
you
you
back if you
almost
just
want to
buy
give
me
in at this
food."
point just because you feel bad for her. It's like a
No.
poverty-stricken woman is now dying and suffering and starving to death at this point.
But at this point, it's also just escalated into a kidnapping. This woman is trying to extort me for $1.50 worth of egg rolls and has expressed that she is not going to drive me back until I buy her food. But, we live in an era of Uber and Lyft and being goddamn self-reliant. So at that point, I couldn't take anymore. I felt like I'd just been mugged by a crazy homeless lady. So I thanked her for the day and left. Just walked down the street.
And
And
that was the
that's
last you ever saw of her.
funny story. I didn't mention this in the article, but about a block later, I ran into this girl who was probably early 30s, a homeless girl who was sitting on the sidewalk begging for change, and definitely gave her all the cash in my pockets. I was like, you deserve this.
You're not begging out of a Corvette.
Yeah, like you are actually down on your luck. You're a human who needs this, and you were polite and nice and not awful. So
Would you like to
it's
go to Roscoe's?
man, Yeah, and my friends actually pulled up a few minutes later, so I just hopped in the car with them, no skin off my back, so to speak. But it was an enlightening experience. I feel like this story should live on as a cautionary tale, because we
Be careful
see.
where you put your business cards.
But more from Angelyne's perspective, this woman was not a happy woman. If there was one takeaway, it's that she was miserable being Angelyne. She had created an image of herself in her mind that really didn't mesh with today's standards and that she couldn't really live up to. I mean, her entire self image is based on superficiality and youth, and the problem is everyone ages. I mean, she stopped being young pretty much 30 years ago. Um, so the funny thing is, when she ran for governor, I don't know if she realizes this, but her information became a matter of public record. So you can actually find out her real name and how old she is if you Google hard enough.
Oh,
So,
I'm gonna Google so hard right now. You have no idea.
so your listeners might get a treat if you want to Google this. Her real name, and not many people know this, is Renee Goldberg.
Renee Goldberg.
Yeah, so
You
Google
can't be
Renee
famous
Goldberg,
with that.
Angelyne, and that opens the floodgates.
Oh my God, my world has just turned upside down.
Yeah. Although, oh, look at this. Uh, the IMDb page actually has a real name in it. I didn't realize that. Although it lists her date of birth as 1958, which I do not believe is accurate. I'd found another listing as 1938.
Oh, it's a typo. Look, it's 1858.
Yeah, so
So after this whole thing, you decided to go ahead and make it public knowledge, and you blogged about it.
yeah, I I was actually quite shaken by the whole experience. That's one thing that did not come out in what I wrote about this. It was more upsetting than one would expect. So just with all that energy, I had to get this out. So I wrote my story. And what I ended up with was admittedly way too long, and I regret some parts of it, but I ended up with
It was
a
a warning, a very detailed warning.
yeah, it was about a 12-page article about detailing the smallest bits of this experience. So anyone who wants to read it, you can find this simply by Googling Angelyne Garbage Person. Um, and a lot of my friends have been following this online, so I had a few people who are interested in recirculating it. And there was one in particular who expressed that he wouldn't require any edits, that he was fine with the length. So I went ahead and put it up on his blog. Admittedly, I don't know if it fits the theme of his blog. He's got a parenting in Hollywood blog that this went up on, but whatever. He's a really cool guy. I
If any
can't
of you
thank
are
him.
looking to check this out, I will be putting it in the comments below. So go ahead and click the link and go ahead and read the story and relive the story, the tale you just heard. But also go ahead and give the guy who runs the blog a little bit of love.
Yeah, exceptional man. And yeah, the article goes into a lot more painful detail. It is a harrowing journey, but it's up there.
And
And yeah,
it correct me if I'm wrong. Did the article not warrant you some unwanted attention
oh
from Reddit?
God,
I believe.
yeah, yeah. Someone put this up on Reddit. I think it ended up with tens of thousands of views in the first few days it was up. And I got doxxed by Reddit, which was unfortunate, but also weird. I was getting messages on Facebook, and my name is Phil Warren. It's in the article, so I'm not revealing anything about myself that's secret. But that's a very anonymous name. I mean, I think there's 150 of me in Los Angeles alone. So I was shocked that people managed to track me down. I got messages from a few people in New York, actually. Actually, most of the messages I got were positive. I got a few girls who said they were big fans of the article, and a few threats. There were a few people who were diehard Angelyne fans.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Also, I do regret even mentioning her physical appearance in the article. It did come across as misogynistic, and I regret that because the the real problem here is writing about Angelyne casts so many aspersions on every group she's a part of. Um, she's not a good example for anything that she is. It's
Well, she looks like she's trying to be Barbie, but in truth, she's just trying to make a living via Stockholm syndrome. So, let's not really use her as as any kind of a beacon of someone we should aspire to be. She's definitely not a role model.
it's unfortunate because she gets lumped in with some other Hollywood icons who are aging female celebrities who had a shtick based on their sexuality. And a lot of people bring up, weirdly enough, Elvira gets lumped in with her
Yeah, but
quite a bit.
Elvira's still making it strong. In fact, she's making a comeback now.
Yeah, yeah, and I met her. She is super pleasant.
Yeah,
Real
I
name's
ran into her at
Cassandra, I
the House of
believe.
Blues once. She's a
Oh,
fantastic human being.
yeah, and but her shtick is also there's a lot more comedy in it.
She understands
She,
that she is satire.
yeah, and that's okay. It's okay to age, and I think that's something that a lot of people lose sight of.
I agree. I very much agree.
And yeah, Angeline's been fighting it tooth and nail, whereas had she embraced it, I think she could really be a pleasant, happy person. And it was very unfortunate to find her in the state she was in.
Well, hopefully she does find her special little someone that she can kidnap and live off of for a while. But I don't by any means think she's a horrible person. I do think that she's a frightening person. You should avoid her at all costs. Don't look her in the eye because something may happen. You could turn stone, or you might wind up accidentally landing yourself in a Denny's, buying her a Grand Slam, and you feel guilty because you didn't buy her too.
Yeah, it's what I found very upsetting is she's a grifter. That's really what she is now. She's not an actress, not a singer, not really a celebrity. She's just a grifter, and that's upsetting to find oneself around.
Well, she's not a Kardashian. They learned how to do it by just being filthy, stinking rich. But
Yeah,
let this be a tale of woe, a tale of terror, and a tale of warning. Don't put your business card where it doesn't belong. Otherwise, you don't know whose car you'll wind up in. Phil Warren, thank you so much for Skyping in with me and telling me your story. I'm glad you survived. I'm glad you've been on some adventures since, and I hope you I hope you never run into her in a dark alley.
fact. Yeah, I'm really banking on her never recognizing me if she sees me again, because
Well, if she does this every day.
yeah, yeah.
Then again, there are the bright red shoes, and I'm looking at them all right now from the blog, and you
Yeah,
need to hide those shoes, sir.
forever.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but hey, let's talk absinthe. I hear
Let's talk
there's.
absinthe, yes. Slipstream. You need to go ahead and take a look-see at them. Slipstream Absinthe is a wonderful group of guys, two brothers actually, who created a glass that is specifically for absinthe drinking. I've managed to use it for other things. It looks like a bong. They've been on my show before. I love these guys. I love their product. Instead of having to rely on large items such as those wells and slowly drip, drip, drip into ice cubes, you just go ahead and pour your absinthe in the bottom, throw your sugar cubes should you require it,
Oh,
put in
wow.
the ice on top, and pour directly in.
Yeah, lushing is actually very difficult. So the interesting thing about absinthe is straight, it has a very distinct flavor, and it's harsh enough to be unpleasant. And that's not really how you're supposed to drink it.
A lot of
If
people describe it as a harsh licorice flavor, and
Yeah,
I'm a fan. I love licorice. Black licorice is one of my favorite treats.
but I feel like if you really want to bring out the body, experience the absinthe like you're supposed to, you have to very slowly add water, and you get this louche effect, wherein the lipids separate, and this green or sometimes blue liqueur turns a milky white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually sometimes kind of difficult to get it to do that appropriately. But just a little bit of water added at the right rate will drastically alter the experience.
This is exactly
Really,
why this glass makes so much sense to me. And I've used this thing for almost a year now. It goes ahead and it brings it up in little bits. It looshes it right in the center. You can see the little fairy dancing, shocking it, bringing out its natural flavors. It's fantastic. I highly endorse this product, and I do believe I'm going to send you one of these glasses, sir.
oh, that would be awesome. That would be the best thing ever.
I find it very funny and ironic that we landed on absinthe as our topic to end this because I guess this is a fun time for me to announce that there's a little movie called The Green Fairy, starring one of the final movies that ever so loving Roddy Piper will be in. Called, well, as I said, The Green Fairy. It's going to be shown at Monsterpalooza in April 22nd, and
Ooh,
they are asking me to go and cover the event for them.
ooh, holy crap!
So,
I'll probably be seeing you there then. That's
fantastic.
yeah, that's
I'll
on my.
bring your Slipstream glass. We'll have some of the Green Fairy right there at Monsterpalooza.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm. That's my birthday. A lot of my friends are very involved with Monsterpalooza, so
Well, there we
I was
go.
thinking that would be great.
This is what it feels like when worlds collide. Well, I think that's about all the time we have left. Thank you so much for joining in on this tale of terror. If you do want to become famous in Hollywood, make sure you do it the right way, by sleeping with someone and putting the video out there. But if you like this episode, please click that like button, share it with everyone else, and subscribe. If you didn't like this, please tell us what you didn't like in the comments below. If you didn't like me, go fuck yourself. As always, I'm your host, Christian Merrick, and may the awesomeness